What's good, everybody? So as you can see, I have my man facing the mirror. I asked him how much he wanted off, and he told me how much he wanted off versus saying an inch or 2 inches. Many people don't know what an inch or 2 inches is, so I just go ahead and face the mirror and ask them, and I say more or less. And then I work my way from the front to the back, just section by section, and then I come around the side of the head, and I usually work on one side until I can wrap my fingers all the way kind of in a curved area and just curve towards that parietal ridge area, which you'll see right here. See how I have my knuckles a little bit higher and farther away from the head, but my fingertips closer on that parietal ridge. And I do that so I can make it shorter in the parietal ridge area, kind of rounding into a longer top. So now that I have a number 4 on my JRL 2020 clippers, which I love so much, now I can just kind of float right off the top of the head there in that parietal ridge area and just blend right into the top. So this is a number 4 going straight up, just kind of floating right off the ridge of the head there. And you know, the top is basically done now. I'll come back and point cut the bangs a little bit, knock a little bit of length off. In the back, you can see that I'm dropping it just a little bit, still keeping a clean line where that number 4 is. But I'm dropping it in the back just a little bit because I want to keep it a little bit fuller, so that way his calic doesn't point up, you know, or stick up in the back. So now I'm going in with a 3.5 into the number 4, and then I'll close that number 3 towards the bottom just to clean everything up. But that's what we're doing on the side for now. So we're just doing the 4 in the parietal ridge, blending into the top, then a 3 open into the 4 closed, and then a 3 closed into the 3 open, just to clean up the sides and the back. And then we'll put our guidelines in and we'll blend into that. Today we're doing, you know, just trimming the top. Well, we cut quite a bit of length off the top. A number 3 on the side with a low taper. I'm not really gonna mess with the beard any. He likes to do that himself, so I just leave the beard alone. However, I don't like to send people out with a hard line in the beard taper area, so I just go ahead and, you know, flick that out just a little bit so that he walks out the door at least with his beard looking like it's blended in some. And no, I don't charge extra for that. So there again, we're just doing that number 3 into the number 4, and we're gonna do that all the way around the head. Now we'll come in right at the crease of the ear and we'll set our first guideline, and we're doing a bald taper. So we balled it out just about, you know, a 1/2 inch there. Now I'm gonna open my clipper blade all the way up, go up about 3/4 of an inch, then I'll close it halfway, and I will start under the first guideline, working halfway up towards that second guideline, and then I'll just close that blade all the way up, tapping at that first guideline, trying to blend it out. Now we're gonna jump right into a number 1 open, and we'll go up just a little bit higher. I like to use that number 1 open, sometimes the number 1 closed in that C-cup area, just so I can get a sharper line as well. Clean up over the ear a little bit, just so I can get a sharper line. Notice I'm only using the bottom portion of the blade to cut the bottom hair like right on that edge line, so that way we don't cut too deep into that number 3. But I just like to lightly clean up that edge, so when we put a line up on it or an edge on it, it looks sharp. So we did the 1 open, and then we did the 1 closed. Now I'm coming in with a 1.5 to try to knock out the line between the 3 and the 1 open. Now this is a 1.5 open, and I just kind of float into that number 3, and then I'll close that 1.5 guard and just try to blend it together better. Now, because of his bone structure and stuff on the side of his head, it'll create these little shadows and things, but you know, it is what it is. We'll get the blend looking as good as possible. So now I come in with the half guard halfway open to start off with, and just kind of tap from that bottom fade into that number 1 section, and then I close it all the way, tapping at that line, trying to get it out, then come all the way out. So I open my blade with no guard back again, and I'm just tapping with the corners just to soften any kind of hard lines that I see. I'll come back later, as you know, with the shear over comb technique that I love so much, and we'll clean that up a bit. So now we're going to go ahead and put the C cup on, and these are the JRL 2020Ts, the trimmers, and I have them hitting really nice. I'm going to be doing a review on these very soon, and I'm going to also be comparing them to your favorite trimmers out on the market right now, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So I'm excited about that. Now that we cleaned up that C cup, we'll just go ahead and clean up that vertical bar just to make it, we don't want to go back too far, but we do want to clean it up. So basically we're going to do the same thing in the back that we did to the side. We'll start off with our first guideline, bald everything out underneath that, and once we bald everything out, then I'll go back to my JRL 2020C, the clippers, and I'll open the blade up all the way and just set my second guideline. And basically these are the steps on every haircut that I do. You know, if I'm working my way up, as you know, some of you guys know, I usually prefer to fade down, but usually when teaching YouTube videos, I just fade up because I want to make it maybe easy as possible for you guys. And some people really get lost with the fade down technique, being there's no guidelines. But so we establish our first guideline, then our second guideline, and then I will basically close the clipper halfway, and I'll work halfway between that first and second guideline, just trying to blend towards that bottom guideline, and then I'll close it all the way and just tap at that bottom line. And as you can see, I reached over with my thumb on the same hand to flick that lever. Last time someone asked me, they said, I noticed that you were switching the lever with your other hand. Is it because the clipper is just too bulky to really, you know, flick with one hand? And that's not the case. Usually I try to do that as far as change the lever with the opposite hand while I'm recording a video, so that way it just gives me a reminder when I see my hand come over and do that. It gives me a reminder while editing the video that this is when I'm changing the size of the blade at that time, if that makes sense. So the same thing we did on the side, went in with that number one open and then closed it, just trying to tie those lines together. I'll come back in with the zero guard in a little while. But the next step after I did the one open and now doing the one closed, I can't remember if I go straight to the zero guard or if I go to the number two guard. Okay, I went to the zero guard. So zero guard halfway open, tapping at that line, then I'll close it and just try to blend that line all the way out. And because you can see some darker areas and lighter areas, I'll come in and I'll just try to use the corner of, you know, the corner of the guard or the corner of the blade as much as possible, tapping at those little dark sections just to soften those dark spots up, blend it in a little bit better. Just close the zero guard and you know, just tapping at that line. And there again, I'll come back too with the shear over comb towards the end and just clean everything up once I lay a good foundation. So instead of jumping into the 1.5 guard at this point, I went ahead and jumped into the 2 guard open, and then I'll close it. And simply because being we did the number 3, I wanted to kind of, you know, stretch this bottom portion out. I don't want it to look really stretched, but I didn't want to just do the 1.5 open and flick out into the number 3 in the back. I wanted to go ahead and blend it into a number 2. So now I have the 1.5 guard on there, and just tapping at that dark line. As you can see right there, he has a line that is always hard to get out. You can actually see that in my last video, and it's because that calic area there, right at that corner, it just, all the hair goes up in that bottom section, creating a little line. And sometimes I miss it. I don't really know if I got it in this video, but either way, it'll look good. So closing the number 1, just tapping at that line again, and then I may have to put the zero guard back on and just work at it again. But I just keep kind of following the same steps that I've already done, just trying to get that. Now you can see all those hairs that go up right at that corner. I decided to do a little trimmer over comb, and what I'm doing is pulling those hairs down and trimming them at an angle where it's shorter at the bottom and it gradually gets longer towards the top, right, to follow the flow of the fade. And then I just put a sharper line on it to make sure it looks clean. So now the same thing we did on one side, we do to the other. So we started with our first guideline, balded it out, then went with the open blade, then middle, and then we close it all the way down and just knock that line out. Come in with a number 1 open, go up about 1 inch, clean up around the ear. As you can see, the way I'm holding my clipper at that angle, it's really close at the bottom and not touching any hair towards that number 3 area. And then, you know, same thing. I'll close the number 1, and then I put the zero guard on there, flicking at that, you know, open and then close, or halfway open and then close. And then I'll go with that 1.5 guard open and just hit at that line, and then I'll close the 1.5. And if I can't get it out like right there, I just go back to that 1 open. And if I need to close it, then I'll close it. And there again, just doing the steps over until everything starts to come together. Now we'll put the line up on the front vertical bar, just kind of curve that thing around. As you can see, I like to always put the line at the top of the C cup in first, and once I do that, then I'll come from the bottom and just round up towards the line that I created. And these trimmers are hitting, folks. I mean, they're hitting pretty nice. And what I love about these trimmers, they're so quiet, man, but they are powerful and they hit nice. So now I'm not really trying to create a real sharp straight line on this bang because of the way he styles it. So I'm just kind of point cutting in the shape that I want, right? So I did need to, you know, trim some of that off over there, but just combing it, seeing how it's going to kind of lay. And I know that he likes to swoop his hair over, so I just kind of clean it up, point cut it a little bit, and then go from there. Now we'll throw some product in there. And what I'm using right now is the Tomb 45 Indestructible Clay, which I'm so sad about. I don't think we're creating it anymore, and it's so hard to get your hands on. However, someone on Instagram, a friend of mine, sent me a new product that I'm going to be testing out soon. I'm excited to see if it, you know, just matches up to that Tomb 45. But now we're cleaning off the neck. And then we'll go ahead and once we do use the trimmer on the neck, we'll hit the shaver on there just to make sure we ball it out real good. Now I hit them with that cherry almond alcohol, and there's the blend, guys. I really hope that you guys liked it. Also, like always, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Leave a like and a comment. I would appreciate it. But also, if you're not following me on Instagram, do that at S.Craft_blendz with a Z. God bless you guys. Peace.